Let's take a look at the situation and a dire one at that the entire Southeast Asian region is witnessing at this time. The second wave that had hit India has started to showcase symptoms in the Southeast Asian countries as well, including Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Malaysia. Japan has been the second quad nation, second quad power that has also been hit adversely by the virus. Now, while China continues to maintain the lie that it has only some 7 new cases in the last 24 hours that it has gone ahead and recorded, the World Health Organization has made a categorical statement that while vaccination drive is continuing and has been successful, especially in the western part of the hemisphere, we are still not out of the pandemic. We are still not out of the threat of the coronavirus 19 pandemic that is spreading like wildfire in the southern hemisphere. So in this regard, how can we go ahead and tackle the situation while controlling the other nuisance that is China, which has been allowing for black marketing, or allowing for profiteering by way of blocking a number of supply chains towards India, a number of supply chains in other Southeast Asian nations, and earning maliciously from this pandemic that has only been the gift to the world by China. Ambassador Vishnu Prakash joins me on the broadcast, and Ambassador, a situation that was particular to India in the last few weeks and months has now spread in Southeast Asia as well. China continues to keep a poker face with regards to the number of cases that are emerging from China, even as the likes of Malaysia, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, they all are witnessing impactful surges in their own regions because of increased number of mutants that are being found. How do we go ahead and assess the situation and bring about a curtain to this rising second wave pandemic, shifting its focus perhaps from India in the next few weeks and months to the Southeast Asian regions?
Greetings and nice to be on the program with you. As far as China is concerned, I think it is very kind of them to admit that they had 9 cases. China is a different ball game altogether. They first decide what is a fact and then they manufacture a fact. I was posted in China at one point in time when on the 1st of January, they would announce the GDP growth figures for the previous year. I mean, God Almighty cannot decide on the GDP growth figures for the previous year on the 1st of January. But well, that's how the system is. Their foreign minister addresses a group of think tanks and says that in the 5,000 years of Chinese history, they have not had one aggressive bone in their DNA. So, I mean, let us not worry too much about what China says. I mean, China does something, says something. That is as far as our northern neighbor is concerned. Now, as far as the pandemic is concerned, unfortunately, unlike influenza, which mutates every year, it seems that the COVID pandemic is mutating very fast. And the different strains are coming about from different countries because of travel, because of premature opening up, and what have you. But not just the ASEAN region, but Europe, Americas, every country, literally every country is facing the second wave or the third wave. The solution is very clear. The solution is lockdowns. Solution is extra care. Solution is vaccine. I think we are in for the long haul. And the need of the hour is very close international cooperation so that there are no artificial barriers created in the way of combating this menace, which is the biggest challenge to the mankind.
Dr. Shrikant Kundapalli, I'd like you to join me in this discussion and understand that the virus that had been unleashed by China, the CCP, from its Wuhan lab is now going to come back and bite it with the Southeast Asian nations, which were primarily isolated from the first wave, are now witnessing symptoms with an increased surge. The Sinopharm vaccine that China continues to propagate and advocate across the world has not really gotten any raving reviews from the international policymakers and the medical journals as well. So, to put the point across, a number of these Southeast Asian nations, which are heavily dependent on the Chinese economy and investment and trade, are also being doled out the Sinopharm vaccines. Now, is that going to further worsen the situation of the Chinese? And the virus that had originated from China is going to again come back in a second surge, and a more mutant and a violent one and a resurgent one, and perhaps even wreck the economy. Forget about the economy, but the lives of the people of China.
Yes, this is an important topic. Last year on January 17th, the first case in Bangkok, the one which is outside China, happened. This is a direct traveler from Wuhan who went to Bangkok in Thailand. So they have alerted the WHO. First time, not the Chinese, but the Thais have alerted the WHO on the outbreak of this. So Southeast Asia was massively affected. Especially Indonesia. Indonesia has a very high rate of mortality among all the Asian countries. First is, of course, Iran, with mortality rate of nearly 2.8% per 1 lakh people. There is the 2.8% according to the WHO statistics. So Iran has the highest. Second is Indonesia at again 2.8%. Then you have also Pakistan at 2.2%. Then we also have Philippines at 1.7% and India at 1.18%. So Indonesia and Philippines in Southeast Asia have the highest number of COVID-19 cases. But there are also very bright spots like Vietnam. Vietnam, there is only a handful number of these infections because they had a very aggressive contact tracing and border controls. They shared the borders with China, but they were able to put controls across. And Vietnam is a very successful story of how they address the COVID-19. Rest of Southeast Asia has problems on this, but there is an issue on that. Cambodia rejected the Sinopharm, Sinopharma vaccine, while China is dishing out to many countries. They're all complaining about, number one, it is 54% effective, not higher rates, as the Brazilians found out in their trials. Secondly, it is coming at around $70 to $80 per dose, as compared to Covishield or Covaxin, which is around $4 to $5. The Chinese vaccine is coming at around $70 to $80. The third problem they are also facing in Southeast Asia is China wanted the clinical trials to be conducted on them and see how the vaccine is functioning. Now, it is something like guinea pigs. So there is a huge concern there in Southeast Asia on why should they share this information if they are buying these vaccines. Bangladesh, for instance, rejected recently the clinical trials. Pakistan has accepted the Chinese conditions, but there are other countries which have rejected this. So this has led to a lot of problems between Southeast Asia and China on the vaccine-related aspect.
Right, absolutely. And then, I can't help but wonder, Dr. Mohsin Wali, that the nation with the world's largest population, the nation that continues to be hiding so much information from the entire world, the nation from where the Wuhan virus spread, the nation that refused to even come out honestly and tell the world back in 2019 December that, listen, there are cases of the virus that have been, at this point of time, estimated in Wuhan. They even refused to stop international flights from China to the other parts of the world. And that's exactly how the virus spread. And now they are inoculating their population with this spurious Sinopharm vaccine, which is only 50% efficacious, and still coming out with figures of 7 fresh cases or 9 fresh cases or a total of 14 fresh cases. It's absurd. And there needs to be a lid that needs to be lifted and the truth be told to the world about the double face that China is going ahead and bringing, especially when it comes to the Southeast Asian nations.
Yes, agree. And China has played very decently in the past. It played like a clever guy. It played like if it was hiding something. And first reason was financial. Both excellencies, I'm very happy to join in this show. I'm honored. And I will agree with their views. And I was following, and Dr. Bagai, both of us are following this pandemic since day one. We were the first to give the first talk in the morning at 8 o'clock at one of the channels. And the reason later known was China was packed with lots and lots of New Year gifts which were going around the world. So neither it has stopped the outgoing flights, nor it has announced that there was such an outbreak. And rather those people who made it public on their Twitters and they have a WhatsApp-like platform. So they were punished, amply punished. They were thrown out of the country.
Dr. Bagai, I'm coming out with the theory. The fact that the entire Southeast Asian region has been infected almost, be it Cambodia or Laos or Indonesia or Malaysia, Vietnam, in the second wave, does it seem a likely matter of concern that it perhaps might be the virus traveling again from China and coming into all these nations, because China is refusing to divulge any of its figures. With its Sinopharm, which is only 50% effective, and having just 9 cases is a complete, total absurdity.
Good afternoon. If you look at it right from the beginning, the first case was obviously not in 2020 when it came out of Wuhan. It was somewhere around November, December 2019, and they hid the facts. As far as I'm concerned, and most of the doctors, I can speak on their behalf, they are completely outcasts of the world. That is China. They are unreliable liars, twisted genes. They are the dark hole of the world. They have fudged and manipulated every bit of their data, even in the first wave. And I will be very happy to, on your platform, to have any person from the China administration or the China medical authorities to have a one-on-one with me alone. And I can assure you that they will not have a face or a toe to stand on. They prevented WHO from coming and doing a thorough cleanup job as an investigation. They allowed a partial entry of WHO after 14, 15 months. You're going to find thin air. We still don't know how the world has been destroyed by this China virus. The vaccine, there is the only vaccine amongst 218 platforms which have been tried. There is not one single international publication. Even developing world countries like Latin American countries, including Brazil, have refused to use their vaccine. Pakistan will use anything because they have nothing. At the present moment, we don't know what is the genomic sequence. The world is talking of the genomic sequence. We have no knowledge of how the virus is mutated. The world's viruses are mutated, but China is still stuck 5,000 years back. What is happening with the present strain? What is the exact number? They did not give and divulge this information. The ground zero either was in Japan, outside China, or in Bangkok. But the fact is, they allowed their labor, the Chinese labor, to go into northern Italy, and that's why Lamborghini landed up where it is, one of the highest death rates. Even now, places like Belgium, Italy, France, and it all started from Italy, northern Italy, are still suffering with one of the highest case fatalities per million population. So I think China is China.
Goes ahead and reveals, absolutely. Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, I'll come and pose you the same question. The authenticity or the lack of it by which China goes ahead and divulges its numbers, and if Southeast Asian surge is to be witnessed, I would, and perhaps anybody would come out with this theory that the cases are trickling in from China itself. Please unmute yourself, Ambassador Prakash, before you.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anybody has any doubt that the source of the virus is China, and it's not the first time, and unfortunately, it will not be the last time. Their practices are such that even if I take the best case scenario that it was not intentionally unleashed, it was not a bioweapon, but it was some kind of an accident. Even then, the fact remains that China is the source, and the US, especially President Trump, used to say it openly that it was Wuhan virus or China virus. What surprises me is something else. What surprises me is that there is, short of a smoking gun, everything is available. They have covered their tracks, they have covered information, they have been culpable of spreading it for reasons that my colleagues have just mentioned. And yet the world is silent. Why? Any other country having done even 1/100th of what China has done would have had to pay the price. So what surprises me is that the big powers are are muted in criticism, but they have been allowed to get away with that. And if that has happened, then there is something more than what meets the eye, and that is something that worries me, because if a pandemic of this scale can be unleashed wittingly or unwittingly, then there is something very, very serious with the geopolitics that we are facing. And I don't have a good answer to that. I am only raising this question because this is something very dangerous.
Okay, all right. Okay, but let's also take a look at the current set of affairs, and let's I would not say forget about it, but for the debate sake, let's only focus on the second wave, Southeast Asia, and China being the dominant power over there. Shrikant Kondapalli has a moral obligation and a humanitarian obligation to help out these nations. In the spate of things that have happened in the recent past, during the second wave, India has suffered. China went ahead and said that, about this much grant and these many supplies coming in. And while United States had been deliberately slow in the process of announcing that aid to India, China was coming out and saying that we will be great friends to India. We will provide you the vaccines. We will provide you the equipment. We will provide you the supplies, etc., etc. And what we see subsequently is that there have been blockades of those 10 international Sichuan flights into India. It was the NEA that had to actually reach out to China to ensure that those flights opened up, so that the supply chains, when it comes to the medical equipment and raw materials, opened up. There has been, spurious medicines that have been sent from China to India. Mind you, we have been paying for it, and there have not been a single dole that has been taken by India from China. There have been these profiteering and black marketing that has been taking place rampantly from the Chinese private players, where they have been selling off the oxygen cylinders, the remdesivir vials, and also the ventilators at a heightened price. So if China is going ahead and doing this to India, there is all likelihood that China will go ahead and do this to a Vietnam or a Laos or a Cambodia. And like I said, while you went ahead and said that China has been pushing down the throat of all these nations to use the Sinopharm and using these nations' citizens as guinea pigs, there is no ethical thread that is there in China to assure that it will come out as a benevolent nation and thus provide for all these smaller dependent nations in the region.
Two things here. One is in relation to Southeast Asia, and the other is with India. One with Southeast Asia, it is important for China because they have nearly $500 billion bilateral trade. And so they treat it in a very significant manner because there is so much of to and fro between Southeast Asia and China in this regard. Secondly, when the SARS crisis took place in 2003, it drastically affected the ASEAN countries. And there is the concern there on the bird flu and other pandemics coming from China. So there has been a mechanism between the two sides at official level in terms of the health officials meetings. So they conducted these as well between China and Southeast Asia in the last 1 year. A few meetings have taken place. So as you mentioned, there has been a trade in these ventilators and other stuff, medical equipment, PPEs, masks. The white paper issued by China mentions all these details on what they have supplied to the Southeast Asian countries. The other structural problem that they face is that there is a porous border between China and Southeast Asia, linking with Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and other countries. So these have aggravated the situation by allowing people to transit between the two, and also with the increase in the number of infections. The other is Foreign Minister Wang Yi visited Southeast Asia recently, but his main concern was to keep these ASEAN countries away from the Quad Plus initiative rather than in terms of supplies for the COVID-19 infections. The second aspect you mentioned is about India. On the last 1 week after President Xi Jinping spoke to Prime Minister Modi on the support. However, as you mentioned, it is commercial deals rather than any aid that they have provided. It is useful for India to an extent because there is a huge demand for ventilators or other oxygen concentrators. So there is a certain commercial angle to it. So they have been, sending through cargo flights and others. Nevertheless, this problem still remains because Wang Yi addressing the select South Asian foreign ministers meeting a day before Xi Jinping spoke to Prime Minister Modi, he said that we need to be careful of, number one, calling this by some name. Basically, they were expressing concerns on the Chinese virus label. Secondly, interestingly, Wang Yi suggested that the mutant variant from India needs to be addressed by the other South Asian countries. When the virus erupted in Wuhan, Wang Yi was the one who first called every country not to have lockdowns, not to evacuate their citizens from Wuhan. As you know, we have evacuated Indian citizens twice in January and February last year from Wuhan. So he was asking the WHO, he was asking the other countries not to evacuate. But he makes a reversal by suggesting to the South Asian foreign ministers, minus India, that they need to block the borders with India so that the mutant variant will not spill over into Nepal, into Bangladesh, into Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, Pakistan, so on and so forth. So there is a different attitude that China took in relation to South Asia.
Right.
So there is a concern there.
Obviously, there's a concern over there. Duplicity, which is something not new when it comes to China. And Dr. Mohsen Wali, before I end this conversation on my broadcast, what are the stance steps now that India can go ahead and take to, first of all, open its supply chains, especially to the Southeast Asian nations, because they are in dire requirement, well, as much as India is. So how can a connectivity be restored between both these nations, keeping in mind China being the dominant power, and will try to dissuade every single one of these ASEAN nations to step away from India and refuse to take any of those vaccine material that will pour in from our country into their nations subsequently once we are back on our toes fighting the resurgent virus?
Well, it's quite a bit of diplomatic issue, and I would say we have to conserve our products, we have to conserve our medicines, equipment and everything. But before coming to that answer, I would add the role of WHO. It is authenticated that WHO also has a soft corner for the nations who give big donations. So China not only does what our honorable speakers has described just now, but China has persuaded WHO to misguide the whole world. Remember the days when we were washing milk packets and were told not to wear mask? Remember those days? And now mask is the most essential commodity for each one of us, including doctors. At that time, it was told only for medical profession, you have to wear mask. This was totally a misguided thing, and as they told the flights going out from China, basically most to the Italy, they carried the virus. And the people first who came to India were Italians, a group of 14 people, and shouted a lot at that time that why they were not checked at the airport. China refused the airports not to have screening. China refused the worldwide airports not to isolate people. So China has been misguided on this issue, and we have been saintly hearing all this and not taking our own decisions. You know, history is witness that when such an epidemic breaks, mask is the first answer. I'm finishing on mask because mask is still the most important. And while we are talking, the count has rose to 22 in China as per the internet. Just now I saw. So it is more than what they have described. They have been cheating the world, and they have been selling still all the majority of oximeters have come from China. Majority of those oxygen concentrators have come from China. China is making big business out of this pandemic. And one most important point I would like to emphasize while ending my statement, that China has never shown any regret to the world that because of us, so many people around the world have lost lives, in number of people, 2 lakh. So it's a big thing for China to come out, reveal all the secrets which it has, reveal all the procedures by which China has treated its countrymen, and what they have done in the hospital, how they have encompassed the pandemic, how they have controlled the pandemic, and to say an apology, open apology to the world, that by our mistake, as told by Honorable Shrikant sir, that it may be an accidental leak, but China needs an apology to the nation. And this is how I feel. It's my personal view, because people have already started bioweaponry talks as this virus was created as bioweapon. So to correct it and to say sorry to the world, China deserves time now.
Absolutely. Dr. Mohsen Ali, I absolutely agree, and so would all my panelists joined with me on the broadcast, and hundreds and thousands of people are watching us at this time. China going ahead and unleashing a black marketing, profiteering agenda against India, as has already been exposed, but in Southeast Asian nations as well. Now, who is going to go ahead and contain this entire crisis that is the doing of China at the first place, and the resurgent virus that is infecting the ASEAN nations? They continue to be helpless. India needs to step up its game diplomatically and medically speaking as well, to go ahead and provide the much needed assistance to these nations and withdraw their entire dependency on China. Because as we all may go ahead and guess, that the second resurgence that is being witnessed in ASEAN is coming in from the big monster of a country that